Hello, friends. Steve Stockton here with you. Welcome to our latest episode. In this video, we take a look at individuals who vanished intentionally. Now, numerous people are reported missing annually. Regrettably, not all are found. Some intentionally disappear for various reasons, like wanting a new start, escaping a difficult personal or financial situation, or avoiding legal issues. It could be, consciously or not, an attempt to exercise control in a life where things are starting to slip, and their goal is to leave the past behind and ultimately begin anew. Even though some people have deep ties to their careers, homes, and personal relationships, some are willing to abandon everything and seek a different way of life. Some disappear to protect themselves and their loved ones from harassment, threats, or persecution. In this video, we'll explore examples of people who chose to disappear for different reasons. Join me. Let's take a walk and see. Esther Parr, a professor of human geography, studied 45 missing persons and found that disappearing on purpose is difficult. Parr explains that most people who intentionally go missing only stay missing for a few weeks. Even though it may seem like a short time for someone to start a new life, it is rather long when officials actively search and have limited resources, as Parr explains. When people vanish for their own reasons, they are called maliciously missing, people who decide they do not want to be found. There are several ways in which people may try to disappear. Some may fake their own death by staging an accident or leaving evidence suggesting they are deceased. Others may alter their identity by changing their name and personal information, like their social security number or driver's license. Some may disconnect from their loved ones and live in isolation. Alternatively, they may seek companionship by joining a group or followership. Lastly, some may start a new life in a different place or live off the grid in seclusion. First up, Alexandra Greenwall. On Wednesday, October 29, 2014, 10-year-old Alexandra Greenwall disappeared from her Rio Rancho, New Mexico home. Her disappearance was reported the following morning, and missing person flyers were widely circulated throughout the city. While some speculated that she may have run away, many feared that she had been abducted. The case received national attention as search parties scoured the nearby desert with the help of local and state police, the FBI, and concerned neighbors. Police speculated Alexandra may have run away after a heated argument with her mother, Catherine Allen. After going to bed around 10 p.m., Alexandra allegedly changed out of her pajamas, packed 2 bags, and snuck out the back door of her family's home. She may have been trying to make it to her father's home, 60 miles away in Madrid, New Mexico. To the relief of many, Alexandra returned home unharmed 3 days after going missing. She said she'd run away on her own accord and was not kidnapped. When questioned about how she survived in the desert for 3 days, she credited her survival to eating apples and receiving help from animals, such as lizards and coyotes. However, Alexandra did not elaborate on how else the animals helped her. The family has not fully disclosed details about Alexandra's disappearance and safe return. It remains unclear where she was while missing, why search efforts were unsuccessful, and how she returned home unharmed despite allegedly being exposed to the elements for several days. Next, we have Raymond Roth. In July of 2012, Raymond Roth disappeared while at a Long Island beach. His then 22-year-old son, Jonathan Roth, called 911 to report that his father had, quote, gone missing in the waves, end quote. Despite a search operation by the Coast Guard, police, and volunteers, no trace of Raymond was found, and he was presumed to have perished. However, about a week later, Raymond himself was stopped for speeding in South Carolina and arrested for attempting to defraud his life insurance company of over $400,000 by faking his own death. The plot was discovered when prosecutors said Raymond's wife, Ivana, who had been planning her husband's funeral, stumbled on emails between father and son discussing the plan's details. As a result, he was sentenced to prison for a maximum of 7 years and ordered to pay more than $36,000 in restitution to the Coast Guard and Nassau County Police. Raymond told the judge he was sorry for what he did and wasn't doing good mentally. He added that he had no intention of going back to New York. In 2014, 17 months after reporting his father missing, Jonathan Roth admitted to helping his father fake his death. Jonathan said he was coerced into participating in the scam, which prosecutors said his father crafted to get a substantial life insurance payout. Jonathan pled guilty to conspiracy arising from the scam. Next up, we have Esther Beetle. Esther Beetle left her shared house at 10 p.m. on Friday, January 29, 2016, and failed to return. Esther was a journalist for the Oxford Mail, and her disappearance was recounted in a 2021 article by Francisco Garcia in The Guardian. According to Garcia, when Esther did not meet her friend in London the next day, her loved ones became concerned. A multitude of tweets were posted within hours, providing a description of her and requesting any information about her last known whereabouts. The next day, while trying to remain hidden in a travel lodge, Esther realized how much attention she was getting online. People talked about her on social media, shared her personal information, and proposed theories as to why she left. Someone even tweeted about which tabloid would pay the most for her story. Esther hoped for seclusion, but her phone was inundated with frantic messages and calls from relatives, strangers, and even her ninth-grade geography teacher. On Sunday, January 31, Esther visited St. Thomas Hospital near Westminster Bridge and requested to see the mental health crisis team. According to Esther, quote, "I knew that I didn't want anybody to know where I was going. I just knew I wanted to be away from existence, I suppose. I booked the hotel on Expedia while I sat in my living room chatting to my housemate, telling me everything was fine, that I was going to be fine," end quote. After Esther's return, she was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, a mental health condition often associated with stigma and misunderstanding. Esther now advocates for mandatory return interviews for people who leave intentionally but come back home to help them understand the pressures that led to their disappearance and hopefully prevent similar situations in the future. According to Esther, quote, "What we need is the development of a safe, dedicated space in which returned adults can explore what's happened to us, come to terms with what we've done, and get support in working out how we come safely back into society. Return from missing should always be seen as an opportunity to learn, to prevent, and above all, to help someone reclaim their life as their own," end quote. Next up, we have Patrick McDermott. In 2005, Patrick McDermott, the former boyfriend of the late singer and actress Olivia Newton-John, went missing during a fishing trip off the coast of California and was believed to have drowned. The ship's crew found Patrick's keys, wallet, and passport, and his car was parked nearby. Since the crew failed to do a head count, no one noticed he was missing for another week when he failed to attend a family event. Patrick previously filed for bankruptcy and had been in a legal dispute over child support payments with his ex-wife. He was thought to have been in significant debt when he disappeared. "It's not at all like him to disappear," said neighbor Kathleen Padden. On July 11th, Patrick's family learned some of his items were left behind at the 22nd Street Marina. Frank Liversedge, who managed the marina, believed Patrick made it to shore and intentionally left his belongings behind for unknown reasons. "I know he got to the top of that ramp. I've been here for 45 years as a boat captain and a vessel master. I have never lost a fisherman," said Liversedge. Despite an extensive search, Patrick's body was never found. One investigator proclaimed to have seen and spoken with him in 2009, but the claim was never confirmed. Another investigator alleged to have proof he was alive and was on the verge of revealing it, but never did. At least 20 sightings of Patrick in Mexico and Central America have surfaced, but many have proven to be false. Many speculate he faked his own death because he was in substantial debt and could not keep up with the, quote, "Hollywood lifestyle," end quote. Hosts of a podcast entitled Pseudocide, The Disappearance of Patrick McDermott, alleged Patrick was lost at sea and did die on the fishing trip. The host contacted 10 previously quoted individuals, saying they had seen Patrick around Sayulita. Still, none of them could confirm that they had seen him for themselves. Next up, we have Natasha Ryan. Natasha was supposed to attend school in Rockhampton, Queensland, on August 31st, 1998. Her mother dropped her off that morning, but her name was missing from the classroom attendance list. Despite a thorough search, she was not found. Her parents told the authorities she had a habit of running away from home, but they felt it was, quote, different this time, end quote. Even her 21-year-old boyfriend, Scott Black, claimed to know nothing about her location. Over time, 3 other local women had gone missing from Rockhampton. All signs pointed to Natasha being harmed on the way to school that morning. Authorities also had a confession from Leonard Frazier, a man who spent 20 of the preceding 22 years in prison for various crimes. Frazier admitted to Natasha's murder as part of a police plea deal. However, on April 11, 2003, almost 5 years after Natasha's disappearance, the case took a puzzling turn. Frazier was on trial when prosecutor Paul Rutledge announced Frazier was not guilty of the murder of Natasha because she was very much alive. Detectives found her hiding in a cupboard at her boyfriend, Scott Black's house, the night before. Black had insisted numerous times that he had not seen or heard from Natasha, but he had been hiding her all along in a home just 4 kilometers away from her mother. Natasha told investigators that when visitors were over, she would hide in cupboards, but otherwise she would wander around the house like normal with the curtains closed. She only left the house when it was dark outside. Natasha was fined $1,000 for causing a false police investigation. Scott Black was convicted of perjury and given a 3-year jail sentence, of which he only served 12 months. He was also forced to pay $16,000 for costs related to the investigation. Natasha and Scott later married in 2008. And now we have the case of Lance Herring. It's not uncommon for individuals to run away from their obligations. In 2006, U.S. Marine Lance Herring disappeared while hiking in El Dorado Canyon, Colorado. Lance had recently returned from Iraq and was expected to attend training at Camp Pendleton for potential redeployment the following month. Unfortunately, Lance never showed up and went into hiding. His friend, Steve Powers, assisted him in faking his disappearance. The search for Lance consumed numerous hours and cost thousands of dollars. Steve Powers initially claimed to have received assistance after Lance suffered a head injury from a fall. However, when law enforcement officials accompanied Powers to the scene, Lance was nowhere to be found. Powers eventually confessed to fabricating the disappearance, but not before an extensive search was conducted for the missing Marine. Lance was ultimately located in Washington State in 2008 and was charged with unauthorized absence. Lance confessed to authorities that he had orchestrated his own disappearance to evade being sent back to Iraq. Due to desertion, Lance was held in the Camp Pendleton brig for 33 days. In 2009, he agreed to a plea bargain offered by Boulder County that required him to complete 18 months of probation and continue receiving medical care for his head injuries in Iraq. And finally, we have John Darwin, the Canoe Man. Financial difficulties can be highly stressful for individuals and may cause some to contemplate disappearing to escape their problems. In March of 2002, John Darwin, a teacher and prison officer in England, went kayaking at Seaton Carew, but failed to attend work later that day. He was reported missing, but John was not found despite an extensive search of the 62 square miles of coastline. A double-ended paddle was discovered in the sea the following day, and his kayak wreckage was eventually located, leading authorities to presume he had perished. On December 1, 2007, 5.5 years after being believed to have drowned in a canoeing accident, John surprised London's West End Central Police Station by walking in and announcing that he thought he was a missing person. However, his deceit was uncovered when pictures of him posing for a photo in Panama were discovered online. Before John's reappearance, a police investigation had already been initiated after a colleague of his wife, Anne, raised suspicions about her claim on her husband's life insurance policy and subsequent move to Panama. Why did John fake his death? The couple were allegedly in a financial bind. John considered all his options and settled on faking his death to cash in on his life insurance policy. In an interview with the BBC in 2016, Anne said she knew John, quote, couldn't live with the shame of bankruptcy, end quote, but could not talk him out of his final decision. As darkness fell on March 22nd, John pushed his red kayak back toward the shipping lanes and fled to the Cumbrian coast. Meanwhile, Anne helped set his plan in motion. John found inspiration in the book The Day of the Jackal and searched through the library's death records to find a new identity for himself. He discovered John Jones, born in Sunderland the same year as he was. Jones had died at just 5 weeks old. A librarian John had befriended supported his passport application and provided a copy of John Jones' birth certificate from Sunderland's records. Investigators discovered that John had been using a fraudulent passport belonging to the deceased child, which allowed him to travel without being questioned. The story of the canoe man extends well beyond the crime, and the individuals held accountable for it. Some people are still struggling to recover from the aftermath of John's behavior years later. In closing, let's look at the consequences of attempting to disappear. Trying to disappear can have serious repercussions, not just for the individual attempting it, but also for their loved one. Methods such as faking one's death or changing one's identity are illegal and could result in criminal charges. Those who go missing may struggle to maintain relationships and become distant from their family and friends. People who try to disappear may face severe physical and mental consequences. This includes being exposed to the elements if they are living off the grid, suffering from malnutrition or health problems if they cannot get medical care, and being at a higher risk of violence or exploitation if they are homeless or in a vulnerable situation. Trying to disappear can also be very stressful and worsen existing mental health problems or even cause new ones to develop. Cases of missing persons can be complex, since some individuals initially thought to be in danger may have intentionally disappeared. While urgent help is usually required in most missing person cases, a few may have chosen to disappear independently for different reasons. This can lead to confusion and concern, resulting in the unnecessary use of valuable resources for search and rescue operations. Cases like these also emphasize the importance of thoroughly investigating the circumstances surrounding missing persons and providing ongoing support for their families. The emotional strain of not knowing the whereabouts of a loved one can be unbearable, and law enforcement and support groups could provide assistance and resources to the families in these difficult situations. Understanding why people feel they have no choice but to disappear is crucial. This involves tackling issues like mental health, domestic abuse, financial struggles, and other factors that may lead someone to make such a drastic decision. By gaining insight into these underlying issues, we can provide better support and hopefully prevent similar situations from happening again. Although intentional disappearances are rare, they remind us of the complexity and unpredictability of human behavior. It's crucial to continue efforts to prevent and address missing persons cases, as not all missing persons are genuinely missing. Some intentionally disappear for various reasons, causing confusion and worry. While some may reappear, others are never found, leaving loved ones with many unanswered questions. Some individuals may choose not to contact their loved ones even if found. Recognizing the warning signs and understanding the reasons behind such cases can help minimize and resolve future intentional disappearances. Well, friends, there you have it. What do you think of these strange cases of intentional disappearance? I look forward to your comments, but please keep it friendly and respectful. Until we meet again, be good to yourselves and each other. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'll see you a little further on down the trail. And please tell your animals I said hi.